Do good, Maverick O'Hare. Welcome to podcast episode number 149. He went to the woods because he wished to live deliberately. Now, this is taken from a quote from the book Walden, Life in the Woods by Henry David Thoreau. Now, when it comes to that book, Walden, there is a bunch of things that I strongly disagree on. Henry David Thoreau, he was what he called a naturalist. So when it comes to things like worldview and a bunch of the opinions he has and things he wrote about in that book, I strongly disagree on it. But at the same time, there's a lot of fascinating things in that book. It's basically a book about what should we call it? Alternative living, the tiny house movement, kind of, because he was living in a small cabin, basically on the size of a really small modern tiny house, escaping the rat race because he didn't want to find himself kind of trapped inside the thick of tin things, or what you might call it. So yeah, alternative lifestyle, intentional living. So yeah, let me try to read the quote from the book. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear, nor did I wish to practice resignation, unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to rout all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. Henry David Thoreau, Walden. So yeah. But that line, I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately. That one has just stuck with me since I listened through that audiobook. Living deliberately. Now, in his case, he went to the woods to do it, but you don't have to go to the woods to do that, you know. By the way, when it comes to Walden, Life in the Woods, that book by Henry David Thoreau, it was kind of like an experiment he did, or something he tried to do, because he lived in the woods in that small cabin besides Walden Pond for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. And while he lived in that cabin, he wrote a bunch, but actually he didn't publish the book about Walden before about 10 years later. Kind of fascinating. But yeah, he basically concluded that the whole project of living in the woods in that tiny small cabin was both a success and a failure at the same time. That's kind of how I think he concluded, but how people see it. And it's not really you might say that he was cheating, because I think he got his mom to clean his clothes, and sometimes he had a break and went to visit friends and stayed with them, things like that. But yeah, he basically built a cabin. I think it costed him, the price was about 2 monthly wages, because he was in a scenario. He was living with a friend. I forgot his name. And then the friend's wife, I think, kind of put the foot down. Now it's enough. He can't keep living with us. Henry David Thoreau, has been living with us for too long now. This can't go on. So his wife, the wife of his friend, was basically, yeah, saying now it's enough. So he kind of had a hard choice to, I guess, different things. But I think he was kind of comparing it to either go out into the world and get a job and maybe get stuck in that thing, or live really cheaply and go to the woods, build a super cheap cabin and live in the woods, live off the land almost. So he went to the woods because he wished to live deliberately. But yeah. So there's of course some things behind why he did it, but yeah. It is still fascinating that when it comes to living cheaply, that book was written like I think about 150 years ago. But even these days, if you find ways to live very cheaply, there's a lot of options that is opening up that is not there if you are living expensively. You know, even back in the days when he did this, he was talking a lot about how most people were kind of trapped inside what they were doing. They had kind of careers, but it was kind of like they were working for their houses and barns and things like that. And he also had in that book he also wrote the famous quote, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What's called resignation is confirmed desperation." So yeah, it's you know the kind of approach that Henry David Thoreau took with this experiment, I guess, was that he was living extremely cheaply as a way to reach freedom. So I think there was kind of like two ways, two outer points. One is to live like extremely cheaply, and the other one is to get your income up in a way that also allows you to have a lot of free time and you can escape the rat race that way. But of course, also there's a way to combine both of them. It doesn't mean you have to live in a tiny house, but instead of buying an extremely expensive house, maybe you can build or buy a cheap one, things like that. When it comes to tiny houses, it's kind of fascinating. Even back over 100 years ago, when he was living in a kind of tiny house or a small cabin, he didn't live there for long. 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. And how is it these days when people are living in tiny houses? Usually, most of them are not living there that long. So I don't think tiny houses is ideal. Because if they were, why are people, almost all of the people that are moving into tiny houses, why are they moving out after just like 1 to 5 years? It seems like almost all of them are doing that. So yeah. But even if it's just for a small period, for some people it might make sense. Not with probably not with extremely expensive tiny houses these days, but if you find a way to do it cheaply. One guy on YouTube, Solar Cabin Channel, Lamar Alexander, he built a tiny house for less than $2,000 in about 14 days, and now he has lived in it for about 15 years. Fascinating. That's one of the coolest examples I know of people that are living in tiny houses. I don't want to live in a tiny house myself, especially not long term, but still I find the concept fascinating. Imagine if you could build your own small tiny house for like $2,000, $5,000 in less than 14 days and then live there almost for free. Just pay for maybe a little bit of gas for heating, or you could get your own firewood. Fascinating. But yeah, living deliberately. when it comes to deliberately, I just searched it up. The definition of deliberately: consciously and intentionally, on purpose. That was one. Another one definition: in a careful and unhurried way. And then the Britannica dictionary definition of deliberately is one, in a way that is meant, intended, or planned. Two, slowly and carefully, in a way that is not hurried. So yeah, consciously and intentionally, in a way that is meant, intended, or planned, on purpose. Interesting. Are you living on purpose? Are you living deliberately, I mean, or are you kind of trapped inside or do you kind of find yourself inside the matrix, like people call it, or the machine, the system, the 9 to 5 rat race? Sometimes we are not really living deliberately. Oftentimes we might kind of almost automatically find ourselves living out someone else's plan. It's like there is some kind of blueprint that society and the school system, the culture, kind of presents and almost indoctrinates people into. And some people just follow the herd, follow, yeah, the normal thing, so to speak, existing versus living, almost, in some cases. But yeah, do you wish to live deliberately? How to do that is up to each individual, much as well. But yeah, living deliberately. One thing that I definitely think that Henry David Thoreau missed was Jesus Christ. If you're going to live deliberately, you should at least have He that is the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus Christ, so that repenting from sin, putting your trust and belief in Jesus Christ and have eternal life. Talking about living deliberately here on earth, you should at least secure your eternity. Life is about much more than just life here on earth. And when it comes to living deliberately, how to live life here on earth as well, the Bible talks a bunch about that as well. So yeah. But other than that, people have different tasks, different dreams, ambitions. So yeah. But one thing when it comes to living deliberately is income, because what is it that often traps people into lifestyles that they are really not wanting? I usually think it's in most cases it's income, how they are getting their income. Maybe they have a 9 to 5 job and the income is not really that high, and combined with debt loans that they are paying on. So they need to have the job to pay off the loans, and the job is taking up a lot of time, and yeah. But there are alternatives, ways to get several sources of income, several streams of income. And one of them that I've kind of focused on lately is paid communities. I'm not an expert at this at all. I'm basically in the process of building a paid community myself as well. But yeah, the last few weeks, I've been interviewing several real life success stories of people that are running paid communities that are making at least $10,000 in profit per month. And one of the things that has been really fascinating is basically how much freedom a lot of these community owners have. Several of them are running their paid communities by spending like 4 to 16 hours per week of work. So yeah. And for the book and course and community that I'm building, I'm going to interview at least 30 success stories like that of people that are making, yeah, at least 10K in profit per month. So if you want to learn from those real life success stories, check it out on communitycashcows.com. And there you can also connect with a bunch of other people that are also in the process of building their own paid community. So yeah, there was something else I came to think of, but yeah, let me just check my notes. Yeah. Anyway, paid communities is really trending these days. Of course, there are a lot of ways to make money online, and paid communities is definitely not the only one. But it is a really fascinating business model, because the way I see it, there's especially two business models that I find fascinating when it comes to lifestyle businesses or businesses that can provide a lot of free time for people, and that's email marketing and paid communities, online paid communities. And both of those can be launched without being an expert and also very quickly. So yeah. Anyway, if you want to check out those real life success stories, go to communitycashcows.com. God bless.